Welcome back, kids. Today we're discussing Jonathan Taylor's 2025 fantasy outlook and why I think he should definitely be drafted among the top five running backs this season. Right now, Jonathan Taylor is being drafted at RB10 or 20th overall. In 14 games last year, he rushed for 1,400 yards, 136 receiving yards, and 12 touchdowns. And he was the RB7 in fantasy points per game with 17.6. Now, you're hard pressed to find a running back that's going to be as involved as Jonathan Taylor is on a game to game basis. He was first in opportunity share last year. He also averaged 21.6 carries per game. And on top of that, he was third in red zone carries, sixth in carries inside the 10-yard line, and seventh in carries inside the 5. Now, he is still a big play machine. He ranked top 8 in explosive run rate last season. Now, one frustrating aspect with Jonathan Taylor is his lack of involvement in the passing game. He received an 8% target share last year, but he was 10th in route participation. If you look at the games with Anthony Richardson last year compared to the games without Anthony Richardson last year, there's a pretty decent difference. I mean, he averaged 16.8 fantasy points per game last year with Anthony Richardson. But in the 5 games with Joe Flacco, he averaged 22.1 fantasy points per game last year. And he also saw his targets per game go from 1.3 to almost 4 targets per game at 3.9 per game with Joe Flacco. And that is why I think, this is something we definitely want to monitor, because I think if Daniel Jones wins this job out of training camp, I think it's actually a positive for Jonathan Taylor. You're not going to have to worry about somebody taking, the goal line touches away the way Anthony Richardson could possibly do and take away those opportunities. And I also just think Anthony Richardson just does not look to throw to the running back at all. And I do think that is an aspect that can help Jonathan Taylor as well with if someone like Daniel Jones wins the job. Don't get me wrong, Daniel Jones isn't a great quarterback, but he's still an upgrade over what we've seen so far as a passer when it comes to Anthony Richardson. So that is something we should definitely be taking into consideration. Now, one positive for Jonathan Taylor is this offensive line. PFF has them ranked 5th heading into 2025, and that's despite losing Ryan Kelly and Will Fries to the Vikings. They return All-Pro guard Quentin Nelson and also top 5 left tackle from last year, Bernard Raymond. Now, we will see Tanner Bortolini and Matt Goncalves will take over at center and right guard. They were 3rd, 4th round picks last year, but they both saw time last year during their rookie season due to injury. And the Colts last year ranked 12th in yards before contact per attempt the last 2 seasons. And as long as this unit can stay healthy, I think this is easy top 10 offensive line heading into 2025. Now, the Colts have only really made minor moves in terms of this backfield this past offseason. They let Trey Sermon go. They did sign Khalil Herbert, and then they also drafted rookie DJ Giddens out of K-State. More of the intriguing addition here. He totaled almost 2,600 rushing yards, 581 receiving yards, and 21 touchdowns at Kansas State over the last 2 seasons. And he is one of the most athletic running backs from this year's class. And I do think there's a lot to like here. He's already been getting some buzz in training camp. No, I don't think he's going to come in and take a bunch of touches or anything away from Jonathan Taylor. Maybe he sees some sort of third down role as the season goes by. But either way, DJ Giddens is not a threat to Jonathan Taylor. Now, I will say with Jonathan Taylor's injury history, he is certainly somebody that is worth a stash your benches if you have enough bench spots to stash somebody, because this could be a big-time win if something happened to Jonathan Taylor. I think he's a very legitimate handcuff that we should take a look at this year. But either way, I think on the overall, when you look at Jonathan Taylor, you are hard-pressed to find a running back that is going to see this much workload, this much opportunity share, especially at RB10, right? He's being drafted around some of these players that have a little bit more question marks right now, because right now we currently have players like Josh Jacobs being drafted ahead of him. Even Buck Irving is something I definitely like here, but he's still going to be in a committee with Rachaad White. And then you're just going after him. You have Chase Brown, and then you have Kyron Williams, Breece Hall are all kind of going in this range that he is. And there's a lot of these running backs that I would actually prefer to take Jonathan Taylor over. For me, it's Saquon, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Derrick Henry, Ashton Jeanty, and then Devon Achane. And then we're having this conversation about Jonathan Taylor. And so I don't really understand why there's analysts out there that have Jonathan Taylor as like RB12, RB13 this year. I think some of it's because of his injury past. I think some of it's because he's not as involved in the passing game, which I understand because, we've kind of talked about this a lot with Derrick Henry over his career. But right now, Jonathan Taylor is entering his prime. He is 26 years old. And this is typically when we see running backs enter their prime. And so I really like Jonathan Taylor this year. I think if Daniel Jones can win this job, I think it's only going to help. And we saw last year, Jonathan Taylor was a legitimate league winner for you if you had him in the fantasy playoffs last year. He was absolutely phenomenal over that stretch. So again, finding a player with this much opportunity and this much touchdown upside where he becomes a threat to be the RB1, which is something he's already done in his career, would be if he gets more involved in the passing game, right? And this is where he has some of this like Saquon Barkley 2024 vibes, was because last year, this was kind of the stuff that people were talking about with Saquon Barkley, that, oh, he's going to lose touchdown upside. He's not going to be involved in the passing game. And that really didn't stop him from going out and being an absolute monster last year. Don't get me wrong, the Colts don't have the same caliber of offense that the Eagles do, but everything else really works out here in his favor. So Jonathan Taylor should be valued higher than he is right now. That being said, let me know in the comments section below, what are your thoughts on Jonathan Taylor heading into 2025? And we'll see you on the next one. Bye.